In this video, I'm going to teach you the exact process I use to create social media posts that actually get clients, not just likes. Now, this might be a slightly different kind of post than you're used to doing, but the good news is it only takes a couple of tweaks to turn content that gets likes into content that gets clients, even if you have 0 followers. Learning to create content like this isn't just another marketing skill. It's the difference between being a business that people scroll past and becoming a voice that they stop, listen to, trust, and buy from. So let's get into it. Most people think that making content that finds clients is about beating the algorithm, but algorithms are built on how people actually behave. They reward what people notice, remember, share, and engage with. So if you understand buyer psychology, you already understand the algorithm. You don't need hacks of the week, you just need to know what lands in a buyer's brain and what sticks. And there is a difference between content that gets people to follow, like, or engage, and content that actually gets people to buy from you. And it really just boils down to whether your post changes how they see their world. That kind of content is what I call insight-based content. It's not tips and tricks, it's not templates, it's not something somebody can just grab from ChatGPT. Insight-based content creates what I call a light bulb moment inside someone's head. They see your post and they think, oh wow, I never thought about it that way before. And when that switch flips, they don't just see their world differently, they see you differently too. You become the person who helped them realize the old way isn't working anymore and why. And naturally, they look to you for the next step. So that's why insight-based content gets clients and value-based content doesn't. And by the way, this video is the second video in a 4-part weekly series about creating content that gets clients. So make sure to like and subscribe so you get notified when the new videos come out. So now let's talk about a few specific examples and how you can create your very own client-getting insight-based content. So if insight-based content is actually what gets clients, the obvious question is, how do you create it? Now, the nitty-gritty of this work is what I do with my clients inside of one-on-one coaching and my program, Chief Business Co-Pilot. That's where I help solo and small businesses create million-dollar-plus brands with buyer psychology and AI. And you can learn more about it at chiefbusinesscopilot.com or just click the link in the description. The foundation of this process is a tool that I call the Insight Bible. It's not a content calendar. It's not like a list of hooks or post ideas. It's a living, breathing document, a collection of big ideas and philosophies and patterns that communicate to your potential buyers how you see the world and how you can help them see it differently too. So inside of my Insight Bible, you would find 3 big categories. The first is counterintuitive patterns I've noticed after working with hundreds of clients. These are the blind spots that they just can't spot themselves because they're too close to their own business. The second is the philosophies that guide everything I create. So these are the invisible principles, approaches, and guidelines that make what I teach different from just the same old business advice you could get anywhere. And last is the beliefs that I hold about what's broken in this industry and the advice that business owners are getting on how to build a business. These are the things that really frustrate me when I see business owners repeating them because I know that they're keeping people stuck. Every piece of content that I make starts with an insight from one of these 3 big categories. Every post, every script, every email, podcast, or YouTube video. Because when your posts are based on insight, you're not just putting more tips and tricks out there. You're actually building a world and a point of view that people can believe in. So let me give you a quick example of what this looks like. Imagine you're a candle company, right? There's plenty of those online, and all of them are trying to stand apart from one another. And the way that they tend to do that is to share messaging that's very feature-based, right? So here's 5 ways to make your candles last longer, and here's some tips and tricks about extending the life of your candles. And that's all helpful. That's fine content, but nobody ever really feels something when they read it. A lot of the content these candle companies are putting out is, to be frank, very sales-based. And there is nothing wrong with that. We all need those types of posts, but you have to balance those types of posts with insight. And here's an example of what an insight-based email could sound like coming from a candle company. So you could have a subject line like, why I stopped saving my favorite candles for special occasions. And it would say something along the lines of, I used to treat my favorite candles like they were sacred. You know the ones I mean, the ones you light once and you fall in love with the scent, but then you immediately blow it out so that you can save it. But a few years ago, I had an epiphany. It was a random Tuesday. I was tired and the house was a mess and nothing about the day really felt special. But then I lit the good candle anyway. And in the middle of all that chaos, the whole energy of the room changed. That's when I realized we don't light candles because the moment is special. The moment becomes special because we lit a candle. Ever since that day, I've built my business around this core belief. Everyday rituals matter. That's the insight, by the way. Whether it's 10 minutes of silence with a morning cup of coffee or lighting something beautiful at the end of the day. These little choices change how we feel. They help us find calm and care and comfort on purpose. So this is your reminder. Use the good stuff. Make Tuesday feel like Saturday and light the candle. Now that example email is insight-based content. It reframes how you see a candle. It turns an ordinary candle into a story about identity and emotion and why the people who started this candle company started it in the first place, the things they believe in. Now that insight will sell more candles in the long term than any short-term sale will, because it changes the way that people see the role of the product in their lives. And to be completely mechanical about it, it does also encourage people to burn candles more, so they have to buy more candles from you. And that's what insight content does. It doesn't just sell a product or an offer, it builds trust, it evokes emotion, and it works for every single type of business: product business, service business, physical business, whatever it might be. So now that you've seen an example of what insight-based content looks like and what it doesn't look like, and I've talked a little bit about how I create my Insight Bible and the different sorts of pillars that I have inside of it, the next step is learning how to spot insights inside your own business. And I will say, by the way, this is the one thing I always tell my clients to not use AI or ChatGPT for, because you need to really dig into your own experience and your own beliefs and the things that make you excited to run your business. If you don't have any of those, you're going to have a hard time making insight content. But 99% of the business owners I've met always have something that they either do differently or believe differently or want their buyers to see differently. And that's where you can start. The thing about finding insights is it's not really like a brainstorming exercise. It's more of a self-questioning exercise. And these kinds of questions are the ones that go beyond the strategic ones that people normally ask themselves, like, what's my niche, or who's my ideal customer? These are the kinds of questions and responses that are going to make you stop and go, oh, I never really thought about my business that way before. So these could be questions like, what are the things that I know that most people in my industry either don't know or ignore? What frustrates me when I see other people say it online? Because I know it's keeping people that I sell to, my buyers, stuck. Are there moments that have completely changed the way I think about what I do? What is my philosophy? Who am I as a business owner? What types of clients don't I want? You don't have to have perfect answers for these questions, by the way. In fact, if you can answer them pretty easily, they're probably not yet insights. You need to go a level deeper. And the tricky thing about insights is that something can feel revolutionary to you when you say it to yourself, but then you might share it with someone who's never met you and they kind of look at you and go like, huh? I don't get it. What does that mean? That's happened to me, and it's happened to everybody I've worked with. You think you have a banger insight and then you read it out loud to somebody and they go, what? But there is a bit of work that you can do to test insights. So this doesn't happen to you when you're putting out content. The best thing you can do is get objectivity. So have a thinking partner to help you get there. That's exactly the kind of work that I do with my clients in one-on-one coaching and inside of Cheap Business Copilot, where we take these sort of false starts and half-formed ideas and we start to dig for the gold and kind of polish them into insights that can transform your business. At the end of the day, you can write down 30, 50, 100 insights, but you really only need to build your business on about 3 to 5 polished diamonds. If you try to say 50 things, like, nobody's going to remember what you do. But if you only have 3 to 5 insights, that's more than enough to build $1 million business on and beyond. Now, in the previous video in the series, I talked about the type of content you need to post if you want to get clients on social media. In this video, I talked about how to actually create insight-based content. And in the next video in this series, I'm going to talk about how to turn those insights into a content ecosystem and how a few big ideas can get you to $1 million business and beyond.